Now, only an expert can deal with the problem. Because half of the problem is seeing the problem. And only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. So if there's no expert dealing with the problem, then really it's actually twice the problem. Because only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. Now in America, we like solutions. We like solutions to problems. And there's so many companies that offer solutions. Companies with names like the pet solution, the hair solution, the debt solution, the world solution, the sushi solution, the debt solution. Now, only an expert can see there's a problem. And these companies are experts ready to solve these problems, because only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. Now let's say you're invited to be on Oprah, and you don't have a problem, but you want to go on the show, and so you need a problem. And so you invent a problem, but if you're not an expert in problems, you're probably not going to make up a very plausible problem. And so you're probably going to get nailed. You're going to get exposed, and you're going to have to bow down and apologize and beg for the public's forgiveness. Because only an expert can see there's a problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. And on these shows that try to solve your problems, the big question is always, how can I get control? How can I take control? But don't forget, this is a question for the regular viewer, the person who's barely getting by, the person who's watching shows about people with problems, the person who's one of the 60% of the US population, 1.3 weeks away, 1.3 paychecks away from homelessness. In other words, a person with problems. So when experts say, let's get to the root of the problem, let's take control of the problem, because if you take control of the problem, you can solve the problem. Often this doesn't work at all, because the situation is completely out of control. Because only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. So who are these experts? Now, experts are usually self-appointed people or elected officials, or people skilled in sales techniques, trained or self-taught to focus on things that might be identified as problems. But the expert is someone who studies the problem and tries to solve the problem. The expert is someone who carries malpractice insurance. Because often the solution becomes the problem. And only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. Sometimes experts look for weapons, and sometimes experts look everywhere for weapons, and sometimes when they don't find any weapons, sometimes other experts say, if you haven't found any weapons, it doesn't mean there are no weapons. And other experts looking for weapons find things like cleaning fluids and refrigerator rods and small magnets, and they say, these may look like common objects to you, but in our opinion, they could be weapons. Or they could be used to make weapons, or they could be used to ship weapons, or to store weapons. Because only an expert can see they might be weapons, and only an expert can deal with weapons, and only an expert can deal with problems. Because only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. And sometimes, if it's really hot, and it's July and January, and there's no more snow, and huge waves are wiping out cities, and hurricanes are everywhere, and everyone knows it's a problem. But if some of the experts say it's no problem, and if other experts claim it's no problem, or explain why it's no problem, then it's simply not a problem. But when an expert says it's a problem, and makes a movie about the problem, and wins an Oscar about the problem, then all the other experts have to agree that it is most likely a problem. Because only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. And even though a country can invade another country and flatten it and ruin it and create havoc and civil war and refugees in that country, and if the experts say it's not a problem, and if everyone agrees that they're experts and good at solving problems, then invading these countries is simply not a problem. And if a country tortures people and holds citizens without cause or trial, and sets up military tribunals, this is also not a problem, unless there's an expert who says it is the beginning of a problem. Because only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. And only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. Because seeing the problem is half the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, only an expert can deal with the problem.